I've got 1 out of 2 back in school, so that means I can get back to some sort of normality. So I plan on getting back to my live streams and just doing as many videos as I can, trying to get back to my routine. I do like routine, and so yeah, my son goes back to school on Wednesday, tomorrow, so it should be all back to normal then. I think the summer times finally coming to a close, just making the most of while it's still quite nice. I'm in my beer garden having a couple of lattes, and so I'm going to do a simple painting today. So let's get to the studio, start the painting. I'm actually on a time limit as well, which hopefully will go in my favour. I don't want to spend a lot of time doing this painting, just because I've got plenty to do really around the house, and I don't want to be in trouble when my wife gets home. So I'm just adding a little bit of Payne's grey to the sky area. Now a little bit of yellow ochre to that. So I'm thinking of doing just a simple mountainscape scene, which is for me like a natural sort of thing to paint. I quite like it, and it's something that I find quite easy. So to ease me back into the process of painting, because I've not done much lately, I just thought I'd do something nice and easy. And if you're tuning in for the first time to my channel, then welcome. Hope you enjoy this, hope you find it useful. I'm just very in the mix of different colours. So I've got yellow ochre, and then I'm tapping into a bit of the cad red. So just various different colours to the just the background. I'm just covering the paper at the moment, and maybe I'm going to go in with some darker grey now, a bit of French ultramarine blue as well. So just want a little bit more atmosphere in the sky. So it is quite dark, but if you remember that watercolour does dry just that little bit lighter, so don't panic if you're painting along. This does happen, but it does dry just that little bit lighter. And if you do want to take some of that colour out, just go in with a damp wet brush and just lift some of the paint, and you can just do that a couple of times. You can even grab a clean brush. Well, I say that, I don't know yet whether it's clean, but yeah, just to take out some areas, maybe you've got some clouds, that sort of thing, then you can just lift out using the brush quite roughly, and gives a nice effect and a little bit of light to the scene as well. So I do like doing that just to get some atmosphere. And so I think that's the first sort of wash. I'm happy to leave that. I like the different colours blending in. It's nice and soft, so I'm going to let this stage dry. It's nice and quick. I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and I will come in next when it's dry to get some more definite sort of things going on, and now we'll see how that goes. So I'm just going to give it a few minutes to dry. I do like this little light area in the middle, but don't want it too sharp or defined. I want those soft edges. So again, because the paper's a little bit wet, I'm getting these softer edges. So I'm happy with that at the moment. I'm going to leave that to dry and then we'll come back and add some more to the scene. So what I'm using today is, this is the Fabriano rough paper. We're nice and dry now, so I'm ready for just some of the background. Got my tray, so I'm using that today. Just a really light mix of Payne's grey, a little bit of blue, maybe a little bit of red as well. So that's card red. So I want this almost purple mix. And I want it quite light, so I'm going to go in the background now just to add some really faint distant mountains, because there's quite a lot of detail, I suppose, in this painting so far. I want something a little bit subdued to go in to the sort of distance. So I don't want too much going on. I don't want a real big conflict on the paper. So just using a very dilute mix. So this is quite faint, and I do want different tones as well, so they can sort of disappear in areas into the sky, which all adds to the overall scene. So hopefully you can see that, and you can just judge it as you do. So I just want a little bit darker in places just to define some of those edges, and you can let them disappear as well along the sort of mountain range. And you can always go in and do different layers. So if you want to do behind these mountains, if you want to do behind these mountains, you can always go maybe a little bit more blue and a little bit more diluted. You could change this, get quite dark if you wanted to, but I'm happy with this. And what I'm going to do, because I've taken some of the pen out here, what I want to do is sort of have the mountains sort of coming through and disappearing, so it does look like a mist. So I'm going to vary the mix, vary the tone. So you've got almost like the mountain is disappeared in mist, and that's quite nice. I can get that. So you just want like mist in the landscape that you may see. You got these bits of mountain showing through, and it does offer a nice atmosphere as well. So that's what I'm doing here. And this is just a simple Payne's grey again. So, and I really have no idea. I'm just painting just to get back into the swing of things, get the creative juices flowing. So there is really no rhyme or reason. I'm just going in as I feel, and hopefully things will start to make sense. So yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts if you are new, and also if you're one of those returning viewers, then welcome back. I do appreciate you spending this time with me. So I do hope that you stay for the whole sort of painting. Like I said, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I do want it quite simple, just a nice little exercise for me more than anything, and hopefully you do find it useful as well. So I'm just adding a little bit of Van Dyke Brown and that Payne's grey just to the bottom of the painting, And I'm just figuring out what to do as I go along, so you just have to bear with me. Maybe we can have a little tree line as well. So I'm going to change brushes now, just a slightly smaller mop brush. You can see this first one was quite broad, holds quite a lot of water. This holds quite a lot of water as well, but it's a lot smaller. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to grab into my tray just a bit of, I like sap green and a bit of yellow ochre. I do like that colour combination. I want it a little bit darker as well, so that this sort of stands out. This is more towards the middle ground, so I just want to make suggestions of trees. So I don't want anything too defined. This is still quite distant, and just the overall impression of trees. So I'm happy to leave that sort of like that, nice and loose, and that's what I want for this painting. You can go ahead and take your time. You can, you can spend a lot of time doing these trees and whatever you want to add to your painting. You can really take your time. There's no right or wrong way of doing things, just as long as you have a good experience and you're nice and relaxed, and there's no right or wrong, just what you feel you can add to these paintings. And just so there, we've got a little bit of a tree line going on, and I do want a little bit of dark now. I'm just adding more of the Payne's grey. Maybe that's a little bit too dark for what I want. I mean, it does dry a little bit lighter, but that is quite strong, and I'm not sure about that, to be honest. So you can use your tissue to get some of that pigment off, like so. And I'm gonna add some more dark, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna scrape some of this out. So I'm gonna get some rocky areas now. I do that, and I've not got my scraper ready, so hopefully it doesn't dry before I get to it. It is in my pencil case, so usually I'm stumbling around not knowing where it is, and then I lose the right time to do this. It's all about timing. If you want to scrape out some rocky areas, you got to get the right time when the paint's dry in a little bit, so you can scrape out that paint and get these effects. So I'm quite happy with that. In fact, let's see if I can scrape out a few of these trees. I want a few light trunks. So some of the areas I've missed already, but I can work on that. I can darken around the scrapes, but yeah, things are beginning to progress now. Things are looking a little bit better. So I'm just going to carry on and add details as and where, how I feel, but let's carry on with the details. Notice with the smaller brush now how I painted in the trees. So for the forest trees I used a almost zigzag motion, and then I'm just using the same brush just to add some darker details to the rocks. And I wanted to just add a little bit of that sap green to indicate mould and all the sort of greenery sort of growing around. And so that's pretty much it. I wanted to keep things nice and simple. I've got a few scrapes as well for the trees just to indicate the trunks of the trees, which is quite nice. But that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.